everybody. I'm Corey Philly. I'm the executive director of the Vancouver Fringe Festival. The Vancouver Fringe running September 8th to 18th on Granville Island and surround. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. It is an honor to live, work, and fringe on these territories. And I have two really cool people here who are going to talk about things. But first of all, I have to say a couple of things. Look at the merch. You can get this at the box office now, which is open from 2 o'clock in the afternoon onwards. Or you can actually go vancouverfringe.com and go to the merchandise, and it's all there. It's really pretty. And as well, you can also enter our 50-50 draw. And you can pull, if you're a fringer, which I know you are if you're listening to this, you can also do Pick of the Fringe there. So that's where we pick the shows that go on to have a little bit of a life afterwards in the week after. I know. It's so many things. We are here at Leap Creative Studios, which is a partner here for this Fringe, which thank you very much, Leap Creative. And we're here with the lovely Burkeville Productions, who does all our production work for us. They're doing our live streaming, and they're also doing our podcast for us. And Ken and Marvin are in the studio. Whoop, whoop. And also some very, very lovely humans who have agreed to talk to me, even when they see how I introduced everything. Okay, so we are going to talk to the cast and crew from Mail Ordered. And if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shanice Stanislaus from Singapore, and I'm doing Mail Ordered. I'm the main creator, writer, and performer of the show.
And my name is Aaron Coates. I'm from Calgary, and I am the director of Mail Ordered.
All very cool. Now, I'm going to just dive into a little bit of things beforehand. So how did a lovely human being from Singapore and a lovely human being from Calgary intersect to make this piece?
Well, this began as a collaboration with a company called CAD, YYC, Calgary Arts Development in Calgary, Calgary Center of Artistic Development. My apologies. And they organized an international artist festival, which brought in a number of artists back in January through March for a cold, it was minus 30. They got to experience that cold time for 3 months to create new work and then to present it for a couple of weeks. So that is how Shanice and I met.
Oh, so it's kind of a little bit of a matchmaking scenario going on. That's
exactly,
great. That's great.
Exactly.
You know, very applicable to what's going on in your and Shanice, we'll talk a little bit about you had already written this piece and you were working on it. So how did that come about for you?
Yeah, when I went to Calgary, it was my first time going to Canada from Singapore, which is a 24-hour plane ride with all the transit. And so it was a big trip for me and a big deal to come from Singapore and to work in Canada and work with Canadians. And so when I first arrived in Calgary, I kind of didn't know what to make, but I always knew I wanted to work collaboratively. I wanted to, learn more about the communities that work there, how they make work, and how me as a Southeast Asian female with my experiences could tell a story that was, applicable, relevant to Canada. And so when I met Aaron, we didn't know what we were going to make. Aaron actually just said, one day, come in a costume and we're going to devise something. But you see, I came from Singapore, and you know how baggage allowance is like 23 kg?
Yeah.
And there was minus 30 degrees of winter. So yeah, there was no space for costumes in my bag. So I had frantically gone oh no, I didn't bring anything. So I went to look in the costume closet, and I was like, I'm going to find the most big costume I could find that would make it better than the other artists that were choosing costumes. So
competition.
I was prepared, which I wasn't. And so I found a wedding dress, and I said, oh yeah, this is really bombastic. Is that the word we use? Yeah, extravagant. And I'm going to go and put this on. I put it on, and I was like, oh no, I have to think of what I'm going to say next. And I suddenly came out as Lila, the mail order bride. And I wanted to be bring something from Asia, which is Asia is known for meal order bride, and I came and I started selling myself to Aaron.
Oh,
Do you want to buy me? And I tried everything possible for him to say yes to me, and then he said, this is a good idea for a show. So that's kind of like the genesis of how Lila the Mail Order Bride started. And then from there, I had worked in poor villages in Cambodia for the last 10 years doing like arts rehabilitation work. And I was like, in my time there, I really saw a lot of girls and children being sold or being trafficked, and a lot of my work with them was bringing like arts and dance to them as a way of kind of finding their empowerment, or finding safety in their body. So those stories are not new to me. They were quite present in me, but I hadn't actually done any work like that talked about it. But for the 10 years I had been working there, since I was 18, like going there to the villages, I built like a really big, long relationship with the girls who had these stories of coming from poverty, or stories of their families selling them because of culture and honor, and they need money to buy a TV, so they sell their daughters. So those are like stories that I guess, coming from Singapore, like I knew I come from a city, so to go to these places, and Singapore also has a very big mail order bride industry, especially from Vietnam and all of those Southeast Asian places. So I kind of always knew these stories, but I think when I put on that dress and I became Lila, it's like as if those 10 years of meeting girls like Lila just came out of me. And these girls, like, they were just like girls who like hip-hop music, or they love to dance, or they love to make jokes. And, that was their way of kind of finding their worth and their value. And so with this show, I use humor to try and talk about something that is actually a very real problem in the world right now, where a lot of the buyers of girls and women and children came from North America, and they were buying girls and children. And I thought, it's a dark topic, but I wanted to introduce Lila as the way I saw these girls in my 10 years of working with them, and try to, give them light, their voices a platform, which I never actually like planned to do. But when that moment, when I put on that wedding dress, it's as if like everything I met about these girls, like they were already in me. The way they talk about honoring family, or talk about duty, talk about their loves and dreams and hopes and wishes. It just like organically came out. And from there, we started building the show and devising it so that it would be relevant to a Canadian audience. Do you want to talk about how we devised that part?
Yeah, I mean, we just started improvising and playing around, and Lila talking to me. I was the first audience member for this show, and one of the things that was really big was that she was talking to the audience, and then she kind of just took us on in a direction that we didn't want to go, or didn't want to go. Weren't sure that we were going to go on. Rather, I should say. Yeah. And I think what was interesting, like Shanice was saying, is like finding this very dark subject matter, and then also finding the light in that, right? And how we can bring those two elements together, so we devised something that I'm not going to give away because it would give away a large part of the show, but is a way to kind of bridge those two elements in an interesting way.
Yes. And I was very stubborn that I didn't want this to be like a show where it's just about Lila, but how Lila might interact with people from Canada, or like a girl who may not have been exposed to like feminism or any of those liberal values, we would say, and coming to Canada where women can do whatever they want, wear whatever they want, say whatever they want. Like, I wanted that sort of interaction, and for her to really like see the audience. And so this show is very interactive. Like, they almost become Lila's friends, and they help her in her journey, and they're quite a big part of the show. So when I wrote this show, I really wanted like people who watched it from Canada to really like be a part of her coming to this new land, where she feels like its hopes and dreams come true, and she really thinks she's gonna find a husband to buy her for $100,000 US, and you know, she's gonna save her family. And so they kind of help her on this journey. And every show we've done, it's been completely different because the audience is different. We've run this show in Calgary in March, and that was like a huge success because people like were very I guess maybe the story of Lila is new. It's not maybe talked about enough, and so they were very empowered to say something or do something to help her. And every show we've done, like, we've had audience members like say things or done things to help Lila in this journey to discover when she can't find a husband to buy her, what does she do next? Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot, right? Like, when you first saw Shanice and she came out in the wedding dress, like, and then started to be Lila, I mean, I'm sure you had a whole bunch of different reactions, but did it sort of, what was the spark when you obviously saw the spark? How about that?
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, the background that Shanice and I both share is we both went to clown school in Paris at different times. So we kind of have that shared interest and that shared way of working. And I mean, the thing that initially attracted me is she made me laugh, you know, and I was like, this is very, very funny. And again, this is like, and that's just one of those things you gut instinct know, right? It's like, this makes me laugh. And we were working with a bunch of other artists, and we would do kind of show and tells every week to sort of just share material, and everybody just really dug it, you know, and was like, yeah, this is interesting. And I think what I loved about it too was that, yes, there was this woman that we see on the surface who's presenting herself in a particular way, but then we gradually got to see sort of who this person was underneath, right?
Right,
Because
yeah.
she has this facade that she's creating for the audience in the theater, but then we gradually, and I think we kind of discovered along the way, like Shanice was saying, all these stories kind of coming up, all these experiences that she had started coming into who this character was, and we started to go, oh, okay, so there's more to this woman. She's playing a bit of a role in a certain way, but she's got a whole life that she hasn't got to express. So that was what really intrigued me.
Interesting. I'm really going to have to stop for 1 second and say clown school, and please talk about that a little bit, because it makes, in lots of ways, that makes me really understand, like, where, like how about this? Like, your funny bone may be the first thing that is activated as a performer or an artist in a particular way if you have that sort of background. So how did you go to clown school? How did you go to clown school?
Yeah, I mean, the school is École Philippe Gaulier in Paris, and I always say clown school. He actually teaches a lot of different but it's funny to say clown college.
It is. It's all great to say clown college.
So, because it was very clown based anyway.
Yeah.
But so I ended up just going there on a whim, and I was gonna go. I'd sort of heard about this guy, and this was back in the early 2000s, and at the time, and I'm so sorry if anybody's listening. It was the weirdest website I've ever seen in my life, and I read this and I was like, is this for real? But I'd heard this guy was amazing, and he was renowned as being, you know, one of the meanest acting teachers in the world or something. The only article I could find said that the school was like open heart surgery without anesthetic, and I thought, okay, I'm intrigued. And so I went off for a month, and and I was there for a week and a half, and I was like, this is amazing. So I ended up staying for 4 months, and then coming back home for a bit, and then returning again, and it really changed my life and sent my career in a whole different direction. And that's how I came to it.
And you, Miss Thing?
Yeah, my parents never wanted me to be an artist. I'm from Asia, so it's not new. Like, especially in Singapore. Singaporean parents do not want their kids to be artists. So I've always wanted to dance. I was a dancer for a flamenco company for years, but even before that, I love dancing and I love acting and I love expressing myself. But I grew up in like a home where that's not really encouraged so much, or in a society where that's not really a career choice we want our children to go on. So I guess a lot of why I became a clown was the first moment I had done a clown class rebelliously when no one knew was I found like, oh, I could make people laugh, or I can help people. Just when people laugh, they feel like themselves, and it's almost like a rehabilitation of like, well, especially where I come from. Like it's just a break from like trying to do a lot of things so fast, and so in Singapore everything's like moving at really a fast pace, and we gotta be number one, airport number one, many things, and I love that we are like that, but also it can be a bit tiring. But to be in a clown class where you're just laughing and playing games, and I thought I'm gonna be a clown. So I told my family that I had this job that I was doing, and I quit it, and I put all my money together. I said, I'm going to Paris, I'm going to be a clown, like you can't stop me. And I knew I wanted to train with Philippe Gaulier because he's known to be one of the best teachers for clown in the world. And he's trained a lot of comedians like Sacha Baron Cohen and Emma Roberts.
Roberto Benigni and a lot of the Complicity
just a
people.
lot of like people, and I was like, I'm gonna learn from this guy before he's too old and he can't teach anymore. So I took my things and I went there, and it changed my life. He saw me. He really worked on helping me play, and that gift of that freedom to play was something that I wanted to bring back home. So then I started doing more clown things, and I do a lot of clown and arts rehabilitation work. So I work with like individuals who have illnesses or caregivers, and use like clowning and games and play to help them find respite from their illness or caregiving, and just to help them find freedom. And then I love using that in my work as well. So this show, Mail Ordered, Lila tries to find a husband in Canada to save her family, is a clown show, essentially, because I feel like when people start laughing and they start when they start to relax a little bit, is when I think we can start to access these topics that may be dark, instead of going there straight away.
Absolutely, right? I mean, humor is a great way to enter into any kind of conversation because it breaks a certain level of tension, right, that we hold about a topic or an idea, or just the discomfort of meeting new people, right? Where you're like, oh, and then somebody says something like, oh, that's funny, and then like we know already. Okay, great, we've taken it down here to which we can all kind of relate. I'm interested in what you're saying too about our audiences, because I've done a few things in my own work where as I've gotten older, especially, I've really enjoyed working with audiences more. I was I have had those experiences where now I realize that as a young performer, this happens a lot, where you're kind of looking over audiences, right? You're not actually interacting with them. You're scared of audiences. And then what has started to bring me more joy, both as an audience member, as a performer, is the ability to like look at people and actually have a connection with them. And I'm sure that's sometimes unnerving for people. I mean, because they're expecting you kind of not to acknowledge that they're there. But I also am interested in what you think. I mean, obviously you're changing their ideas, but how does that change you when you're working with audiences?
Yeah, the audience is a huge part of my work. Every night I go on stage, or every day, and my first half of the show is almost half audience based, and so I don't know how they might react. A lot of them have tasks to do to help me. I think it's a lot about listening, and I have to be very intuitive as a performer, like almost be very, very relaxed and very, very open to receive what someone might might give me and then be very quick to use that or make that into a joke. And I think when you involve an audience, you make it accessible. You suddenly care about what they have to say and what they have to think. And I do like creating work like that because I started thinking about how my grandmother wouldn't come and watch my shows previously because they weren't interactive or they were just too avant-garde for her. And I thought, oh, but a clown show is, something that she might come and watch because, she might like to laugh, for example. And so that's when I started thinking about how my grandmother would react and what and my grandmother's not an artist. She doesn't go to anything. She watches TV. and so how she might react or how she might respond and how that interactiveness might make theater more interesting and accessible to maybe this group of people where going to the theater is quite a barrier for them. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like how do you unlock that particular door, right? For people. Yeah, that's very interesting. I think I'm interested in lots of that way because we have the very modest description of theater for all at the Vancouver Fringe, and I'm really interested when I'm talking to people like, what does that mean? So now I'm just going to throw it back at you. What does that mean to you, theater for all, in that respect, especially doing this kind of work where you're really asking people to be present?
Yeah, I mean that's what I was just thinking of as you were talking about that is, I mean, what I am really interested in, I think Shanice and I share this too, is that how do you bring people into that present moment, right? How do you get them out of that sort of, because that's the thing we can do in theater, that is so fabulous, right? Is that we're all here, we're in this room, and so what makes this moment alive? What makes it feel like something, and anything can happen, right? And trying to find those things that we go, you don't have to have a special knowledge of anything to come see this. You don't have to have, you don't have to be in a particular mood. You don't have to be, you just have to be there and be present and be excited to wonder what's going to happen next, right? And I think, gosh, it's so easy to say, how do we, we just bring people into the present, but it's a hard thing to do, right? And to really get people alive to what's happening and to, and get them to, that anything can be possible and hopefully to be present enough and then to think about it after the show, and to be going like, what does this mean to me? So, yeah.
Yeah, and when we created this work, I think I started thinking about the show as not just the stage and the audience as sort of like, sections of people, but to come into this sort of collective space and think about, okay, where would they not expect this place to go? Or where would they not expect this thing to happen? Suddenly the theater is from the backstage all the way to the exit doors, for example, or like all the way up to the audience, and creating that as a playing space. With COVID, that was a bit harder to do because, we have to look after social distancing and whether people can come out on stage. But now in 2022, I'm like really pumped because we could add in more interaction and more friends for Lila to play with or to have fun with. And even if they didn't want to play, like that was also a conversation that we had, on performances where people started, I don't want to give it away, started to just not be very happy with Lila's choices and how does she react to that? And then having that conversation. There's a show that we did in Calgary where the audience started talking a lot about how women were being treated this way. And it started like this whole conversation in the audience. And as the actor, I was like, oh no. But as the writer, I was like, yes, this is what I want,
Yeah.
To get like really riled up and get involved. So we're always constantly finding that and pushing that. And I find that very exciting as a creative.
Yeah, I think that is very exciting as a creative. And also it's like the thing about art to me is that you have to be kind of professionally vulnerable, right? Like you're trained, and at the same time, as you say, there's a portion of you that's going, I really want people to like this, and then there's a portion of you you're going, this is great because it's kind of like giving me juice. But it's such a it's an interesting dynamic in your head because you're both in it and present as an actor and also as a writer, and also you're like there's you have a structure, an idea of what it's going to be like, and you have to, like, as in your work, it sounds like you have to put it aside a bit. You've got a plan about how it's going to go, and yet also anything kind of could happen in some ways, right? Even though I know it's kind of a controlled chaos, it's chaos, right? Yeah. Interesting. So I'm going to ask you to pump your show now. So when are you up? When is it happening? How can they get tickets? Because you're going to have to then pump up the Fringe too. It's going on behind you anyway. So what's your next show? When is it happening?
It's happening tonight, folks, at 7 p.m. at the Waterfront Theater. We still have some tickets available, though the crowd is coming in a little bit for the show. Okay. But do get your tickets at
VancouverFringe.com.
Yeah, VancouverFringe.com/mail ordered.
Yeah. And is there anything that either of you would like to share about the show that we didn't talk about? Or it doesn't have to be about the show. It can just be about your world as it is right now, and what is on your mind and what's happening.
Yeah, we should talk about our music.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. We have music.
Yeah. So for this season of the show, we decided to go for a bit more Singaporean-Canadian collaboration. So after our run in March, it received a lot of good reviews from the audience, and we thought, okay, we got to do it again. And this time I was like, okay, let's do it from Vancouver Fringe Festival, because I really was curious about bringing the work, and I like Vancouver as a city. So we decided to bring on board a studio called Grid Studio from Singapore, and they are an amazing studio that fuses a lot of Eastern and Western music and really brings like a mix of traditional and contemporary modern music together. So this show is really like a collaboration of truly East meets West, and we're so excited to bring them on because we've been working on Zoom for the last few months.
Oh my lord! Yeah, right.
I'm trying to arrange between Singapore and Calgary time. It's either one of us was so tired or one of us was totally fresh. I can't even.
Right? I was trying to just do it with the UK in the last couple of weeks, and I was just like,
so we've been working on Zoom for the last few months. Thankfully, there's Zoom, just to create the show again for this season of work, and we brought in Eugene. Yep, he is a music composer, and Yu Ting, who is the sound designer for the work, and they really made the work like a whole new level. And the music's such a big part of the work because it fuses both Eastern, Western music and traditional and hip hop music. So when you come to the show, you really can hear like that fusion and that kind of Lila meeting Canada. And so we're really excited that we got to bring in more creatives from the other side of the world, and then coming in with a production team from Canada. And it's just truly a mix. And I think after COVID, to be able to do work from across the world with someone else in another city 15 hours apart, it's such a gift. And for everyone to like come together to work was really amazing. Yeah.
It's been exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of like, what I would say is that when I heard that there was a group from Singapore coming prior to knowing you, of course, I was like, oh my God, I guess we can do that again. Like, And so it's really delightful to know that. So thank you so much for coming to speak. I'm going to do one last little bit. We're going to go out on the music because I think that's going to be beautiful. And everybody mail ordered, VancouverFringe.com. There's a whole bunch of shows going on in the next week, so let's catch it. Only $15. Come on. Nothing. Also, once more time, thank you, Leap Creative, for being here for us for the Fringe. And have a really great day. And I will again see you tomorrow. So thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.